So I'm going to go over just some key points from this. And as you can see, all I've done is kind of pulled up the summary here. I'm going to go get my pen here, drawing tool, and go over a little bit of information about this chapter here. So the first thing that you're going to see, whether you look at the summary or the whole chapter itself, is this: what is the media? And it's basically going to talk about like what forms of communication does the media partake in. So particularly, it used to be a long time ago, where you can still find some radio. A lot of what you see now is television, but the thing that your age group and my age group, for that matter, and really everybody probably under the age of 70, most of those people use this to get their information. Television's still a big deal in the media. In fact, a lot of people watch, and you've all heard of, MSNBC, Fox News, CNN. Obviously, all of those have websites as well, but their television presence is still pretty big. But typically, older individuals are watching those television shows. Not all the time; young people do too. But a lot of their a lot of their viewers are older. It's kind of like when you watch those channels. Sometimes you see a lot of pharmaceutical commercials and things like that, more targeted towards older people. But anyway, that just goes to show kind of the next step, though, that evolution of the media. So this is kind of a cool little section. If you want to, I would actually encourage you to read more about this in the actual chapter as opposed to just the summary. But it kind of goes through how we started with newsprint and how it was very expensive for newsprint. So political parties would often print their own papers, things like that. And kind of the evolution from the Revolutionary War to today, whereas today we talked about it's kind of evolved into, well, right here, the internet. Sorry, my arrow is not very good there. So social media, that's where a lot of people are getting their news, and we'll kind of talk about that later on as well. But it's just more direct, it's quick. It allows people to even communicate with each other about the news at the same time they're reading it. So pretty cool. Media has evolved quite a bit. Then it gets into kind of regulating the media. We'll talk about some things about what kind of things media can show, like classified documents or obscene material or indecent programs between certain times, and the FCC, which is the Federal Communications Commission, all kinds of different things. So there are rules on our media, but we also, in our First Amendment, it gives media companies a lot of freedoms too. I mean, they can essentially report on what they want, even sometimes classified documents, as long as they don't put people in harm's way, so like soldiers or agents or anything like that in harm's way. Media companies can and have reported on classified documents. So, again, First Amendment inside of our Bill of Rights gives the media a lot of freedom of the press. That's a good thing. In the fact that if we didn't have freedom of the press, we would, sorry, I'm going to circle that here so you can see that. Freedom of the press. And you'll see some comments about, that past presidents have made about the freedom of the press. It's a good thing in a way, because you get total freedom of information. You as a listener or consumer of media get to pick who you want to follow. If you think a particular news channel isn't super trustworthy, you don't have to watch them. If you like a certain analyst or a person that's on a certain news channel and you like to watch them, then you should. You have that freedom, and that's a good thing. But therein lies the other point, where it can be sometimes a lot to sift through. So we have this freedom of the press, which means we have, thousands. Let me draw my thousands of networks and websites that we can go to, and reporters that have their own independent journalism and all kinds of stuff. It's a lot to sift through. So sometimes it can be hard to find things that we like. And then when we do find things that we like, say out of this thousands, we find maybe one or two reporters or TV stations or social media channels, whatever it is that we like. Well, the problem with that, I mean, it's good that you found something you liked and you feel like you can trust, but a big problem with that is that ends up being kind of the only thing that we watch or listen to or read. So we create this bubble. And inside this bubble is everything we want to hear. Outside of, or like to hear, and outside of this bubble, all these other things we don't necessarily want to hear, or we just don't hear at all because we're only listening to one or two sources of media information. So we don't necessarily want this bubble. So again, it's good that you find one or two sources and things like that, but you always want to keep an open channel so you can allow some of these other things to come in as well. That way you're at least aware of what's going on or other perspectives and things like that. So again, freedom of the press is a good thing. It allows us to make sure that government's not controlling the information that we get. That way a Joe Biden or a Donald Trump or any other president can't necessarily control what we read and what we see. Some countries that it's that way, where they don't have freedom of the press, and they're only allowed to hear certain things that typically favor their government. Our press has total freedom and can tell us kind of the truth, or not, and can lie sometimes too. We'll get into that later. But again, it's kind of up to us to do the research and make sure we trust who we want to trust, and we have that right with freedom of the press, so it's a good thing. I'm going to exit out of my drawing here. And then the impact of the media. So you're really going to want to focus on this one this week, kind of giving you a hint. This is a one you're really going to want to focus on. So if you didn't read the whole chapter, I would at least definitely, if you're looking at the summary for most of this stuff, definitely take a look at the impact of the media here in 8.4 other than the summary. That's going to be big. It's going to tell you basically how has the media kind of influenced people in their decision making. So, I mean, obviously without information, or at least access to, sorry, that's a weird O. Without information, it's supposed to be an O, it looks like an A, it's hard to draw with. We're kind of left clueless. Sorry. I'm drawing this person here. Arms and legs. They're saying, I don't know. I have no idea. Because they don't have any info, right? They can't make any decisions. So we rely on the media coverage to fill our heads with info. So we trust media sources, and we trust that they're, at least the ones that we choose to listen to from the example above, we at least trust that they're telling us the truth, right? Well, even if they're not telling us the truth and we're listening to those one or two sources, that's the info we're getting. Whether it's the truth or not, that's the info we have, and that's the info we go off of. And when we get that information, we then use it in life, right? We can vote based on that information. We can get in debates with other people in life based on that information, and we do certain actions in our life based on that information. So the impact of the media is very big on us. I mean, it's literally where we get our information from, on world events, on even how-to videos, all kinds of stuff. That's where we get our info from. So it affects us big time. And like I said earlier, if you're even just reading the summary for most of this, I would definitely at least take a look at, I'm going to exit this drawing here so I can click on it. I would definitely at least take a look at 8.4, at least that whole section. That way you can kind of look at this. It goes into bias, coverage effects on campaigns, how some campaigns get a lot more coverage than others, all kinds of things. It's going to be really interesting because there's a debate coming up today, actually, August 23rd for the Republican primary. How coverage affects society. It gets into race and other things like that. And it's all kinds of interesting ways that media influences us as people in our decisions. So definitely take a look at that. you have any questions, let me know.